Good morning. I'm one of those Lutherans. My name is Deacon Haitz. I'm happy to be with you all this morning. I invite you into a time of reflection to try to hear yourself, find yourself in this song. I'm no stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say. We don't want your broken parts. Learn to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are. But won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Hits my skin. Fire away, 'cause today I won't let that shame sink in. We're bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We're warriors, yeah, that's what we'll become. But won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, 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 this is me. Oh, and I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worthy of, nothing at all. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. In some ways, I'm sad that that song had to be written. This song that strangles and frees the harm that has been done to us by others, the harm that we have done to others, and it makes it a part of who we are. But mostly I'm thankful for that this song was written because it has the capability to create community of love and acceptance almost instantly through shared experiences that brought up. As a person who struggles with Father's Day, of the darkness of the father figure in my early life, who all but avoid social media on this day. As that person, I look to those today in my life who took that darkness and replaced it with light and with hope. Those people who taught me how to mow a lawn, those people who removed the razor blade, smeared shaving cream on my face, and taught me how to shave, although a little preemptively at the age of 7, but I'm thankful for that knowledge now. They are people who taught me to see people through the eyes of Christ, as a whole person, as a beloved person. And they continue to reassure me, despite my doubts in myself as a parent, that my kids are pretty awesome. Now, there are men in my story, don't get me wrong. I have a stepfather, and he and I have a good relationship. But it may also not surprise you to find out that 80% of the people in my story are women who picked up the pieces and helped me carry on. So today, as my therapist would ask, what does Eric need today? So I rolled my eyes and I wrote a letter. And I wrote it to myself through the eyes of our Creator, as I imagine them. And perhaps you have a parent that you can imagine saying these words to you, and perhaps that parent has passed on to the giant, to the eternal glow necklace rave with Jesus. And perhaps you long to be a parent, or perhaps these are the words that you never heard that you desperately need to hear. So there are scripture references in here. I have copies of this if you would like a copy. But I invite you into a moment of reflection and listen to these words. My beloved child, I see you. I see the beauty within you, the uniqueness that makes you who you are. In every moment, I behold your worth, your dignity, and your unyielding spirit. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted in the image of divine love. Your very existence is a testament to my boundless creativity and endless affection. Each part of you, every facet of your being is a masterpiece in my eyes. So do not hide, do not shrink away, for I have called you by name and you are mine. Embrace your true self, for it is in your authenticity that you shine the brightest. Let your light illuminate the world, a beacon of hope and love to all who encounter you. Though others may cast judgment or doubt upon you, remember this, that I have chose you and set you apart for a purpose. You are my beloved, and in you I am so pleased. Your worth is not defined by the opinions of others, but by the infinite value that I place upon you. You are enough just as you are. Your flaws and imperfection do not diminish your worth in my eyes. They are a testament to your humanity, a reminder of the grace that flows freely to all. So rise, my child, and let your voice be heard. Be bold and courageous, for I am with you always. Together we will conquer every fear, overcome every obstacle, and bask in the boundless love that binds us together. You are beautiful. You are glorious. You are worthy. You are brave. And you are loved beyond all measure. With all my heart, God.
Everybody. My name is Ross Peshek. I'm just a member of the Urban Abbey, and some of you may have seen me, or some of you not. But we were asked by Pastor Deborah to fill in for her, and we'll see. That's a tall order since she speaks so well. But we were asked to speak about a song, and I think that you've heard the people over the last couple weeks referencing songs. And so the song that kind of came to mind for me was Bob Dylan, You Gotta Serve Somebody. And there's a part of that song where it says, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. And I'm going to tell you a brief story that I hope highlights a little bit this idea of who we're going to serve, how we're going to show up every day for the people around us, and also a little bit, because it's Father's Day, how at least the men in my life have influenced those choices for me. So if you don't know, I'm a lawyer. I'm a trial lawyer, a jury trial lawyer. And I came to that position through, honestly, a lot of just stumbling forward. So I was a community college student. I have 9 brothers and sisters that are half-brothers and step-brothers, and I'm one of a kind, as they say. And so on my educational journey, I started in community college. I made my way to Wayne State College, and eventually I was at the University of Nebraska College of Law. And having put myself through college, washing dishes at Pizza Hut and Valentino's and delivering pizzas, I had made it through my first year of law school, and finally I had the opportunity to get my first law job. If you don't know very much about law school, they actually rank every single person in your class from first to last. And then they have on-campus interviews where they invite all of these law firms to come to the law school, and you get to interview with them. And my experience, coming from the community college, being from South Omaha, the main criteria I had wasn't about who I was going to serve, it was about how much money I was going to make. And I immediately, because I had been successful in my first year of law school, I took the highest paying job I could get, and really that was it. It was at the biggest law firm here in Omaha. So I started the job, right? And it was interesting. I recall that I had to have my suits tailored because I had worn my dad's suits. I didn't have a suit. My dad's the same height as me, but a little bit bigger by about 40 pounds at the same age. So I was swimming in my suits, right? Had big suits, and it was, time to go to work. And all right, so what are we going to do? Got the project to review corporate organizational documents, to review every bill that's being taken up by the finance committee in the legislature for some corporate client. And I have to admit, I was pretty bored with the work. I wasn't really enjoying it. But as the summer went on, I had the opportunity to meet more and more lawyers. And there eventually came a day where I was, there was a scene. I was at a downtown restaurant here, because this law firm was a big fancy law firm, right? They gave me an office with a fireplace in it. They wrote, gave us paper with our names put on it. They took us to the best restaurants. They had seats behind home plate at the College World Series. And so there we are at a fancy restaurant with all these corporate lawyers. We're at a big table, and I'm asking them, what do you do? Who do you serve? And I'm sitting next to a guy, and he says, well, I coordinate litigation so that my clients, if they get sued in one court in Washington State, that they don't say something that would hurt them at another case on the other side of the country. I said, okay. Why are they getting sued everywhere? What did they do? And he said, well, they're the asbestos manufacturers. And, for those of you that don't know, asbestos is a building and construction material that was manufactured for decades that causes mesothelioma, or a very specific type of lung cancer for blue-collar workers. I mentioned that the only suit I had was from my dad, but I knew exactly what mesothelioma was because my grandfather was a bricklayer in South Omaha for 40 years. He got my grandmother got pregnant when he was 17, and then he married her, and they had 4 kids. They were married for 62 years, and he laid brick for 4 decades. And so I had heard what mesothelioma was. I knew what it meant when somebody told me that they manufactured asbestos. It was that they had made a choice to manufacture a material that they knew was going to kill blue-collar workers, but they could make more money than it would cost to pay the injured families. And so when this lawyer said to me that they manufactured asbestos, I immediately knew, well, that's kind of messed up. I don't think that I really want to do that based on who my grandfather is and where my family is from. So I asked the lawyer, said, how do you feel about that morally? And it was really interesting because that was a moment where I think I learned that those types of questions, at least with certain types of lawyers, is sort of forbidden. Don't ask about that. We don't want to think about who we're serving and what it really means. But I asked him, and I felt a little bad because all of the other lawyers at the table kind of stopped and turned and looked at him. What is he going to say? But what he said was really fascinating. He said that they're really good clients, and they have unlimited work, and they always pay their bill. And if he could have had the tobacco companies as clients, that he would have loved that. He would have loved to have had the largest corporate criminals in the history of our country as clients. So that was the moment that I knew I didn't want to be a corporate lawyer. And I knew it because of the influence of my grandfather. You know, I mentioned all of the trappings of material success at the law firm, right? But thankfully, because of my grandfather, I knew that it was more important to have a wife that you loved and kids that you treated right, to be able to have your family over for a barbecue in South Omaha rather than be worried about going to a fancy restaurant. And I think that it was growing up with those types of men in my life that showed up every day, that did hard work, that did honorable work with integrity for the people around them, that gave me the courage to turn down those opportunities, to walk away from that law firm, to go and learn Spanish, gain language skills, and come back to Omaha, to South Omaha, as a bilingual lawyer, and put that to work for blue-collar workers in South Omaha. So, you know, long story short, what we do today, the law firm that we run today, is the largest fully bilingual law firm in the state of Nebraska, where I'm proud to be able to say that instead of showing up in court, the courts of the Lord, as the Psalm 84 kind of referenced, instead of showing up in court for the corporations and for the people who have chosen to serve themselves, chosen to put that economic interest, that material wealth at a higher priority than serving the least amongst us, the people in their community, we go and we have won cases. I'm proud to be able to say that we've won jury trial cases for roofers who can't climb the ladder because somebody ran through a red light and smashed them, for factory workers who can't stand on the line and run the knife and take care of their 5 kids because somebody else injured them. And we show up in court and we ask for justice for those people because of my grandfather, I'd say. So some of you might have heard this, and this is the last thing I'll say. We try really hard to show up every day for those blue-collar workers, for regular, everyday people, including anybody here who I hope never needs my services, but anybody who's injured and it wasn't their fault, anybody who's a survivor, we represent widows, we represent children who've lost people in their life, and we show up and we ask for full and complete justice for them. And we do it in a way that I am 100% certain that those corporate lawyers probably, and forgive me, I know it's church, have called me an SOB once or twice in those hallways. But for me, being an SOB means something totally different. And if you haven't been to South Omaha enough, you need to know that an SOB is a South Omaha boy. And I'm proud. I hope I can live up to that title as much as my grandfather did, who passed away in 2020. And I hope that when they call me an SOB in the corporate halls of power, I hope that at least he's up there hearing that and knowing that we're trying hard to serve South Omaha boys and women as well. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Lorna Halaas. I serve as the bishop in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America across the river in the Western Iowa Synod. It is a joy and a pleasure to be with you this morning, and it is always a wonder to worship with congregations, ELCA congregations and other congregations and groups of people who gather in many and various places. Thank you for your ministry here, your presence here, and your witness in this community and in this world. Yesterday morning, 24 hours ago, I was with a group of women of the ELCA, known as Lutheran Church Basement Ladies. There were about 40 of us gathered in a congregation, in a building in Cherokee, Iowa, gathered for worship and a day of a church women's convention. They've been doing this for a very long time. And their theme for yesterday was from Psalm 145. One generation shall laud your works to another and shall declare your mighty acts. They were talking about generations, being the church in many generations, and how to be the church today. They have a ways to go. But this explains what it is to be some of my job, my call, to stand with church women yesterday and to gather with you this morning. I feel like I have done a whoosh, fast forward in 24 hours. There is no comparison. But I am called to do what my grandson, Elliot, says, be the bishop. Elliot is in middle school. He attends a Catholic school in St. Cloud, Minnesota. He went home one day, or went to school one day, and at the lunch table announced, my grandma is a bishop. This is a Catholic lunchroom. They looked at him, they thought about this. They said, your grandma can't be a bishop. And he said, she's a Lutheran. As if that would explain everything to 7th grade boys, but they let it go. And so Elliot has given me a shirt that says, hi, I'm the bishop, I do bishop things. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what bishop things are, other than to gather with people and listen and hear stories. Listen and hear how God connects with your life, and listen and hear how the church needs to change, how the church has hurt people, how theology and God's word has been misinterpreted and held hostage in many ways, and how we have been complicit in so many struggles in the lives of people and in this world. And so as I read and hear the psalm today, Psalm 84, how lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, indeed faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh sing for joy. And I hear again the words of one generation shall laud your works and shall declare your mighty acts. We have a rich tradition in the Psalms. We learn these words from our Jewish ancestors, and they are words of our heritage and of our faith tradition. As through the years, children and elders have told the stories of God's wonder, God's love, God's leading the people out of bondage and into a new world. These stories that we tell together are stories of how we are human, what it means to be human. These stories that we tell establish meaning and give new life to our own lives. It's risky business to tell our story. It's risky business to share who we are. But yet, our stories, our trauma, the messiness, the hurts, the joys, the celebrations, the traditions are where God meets us. And where God comes to us in stranger, in friend, in lover, in neighbor, in family, in all the struggles that are part of that life. And God comes to us here in water at the font, in bread, in wine, in juice at this table. These psalms are songs, many of them are songs to be sung as we gather in worship. Gather here together to sing praise to God, not because God needs our praises or we need to flatter God, but to recount and to look out the windows, to look in the eyes of one another, and come to understand the presence of God and the gifts of God in each other, in the world, in the abundance that God gives. These are words of poetry that reinterpret our understandings, that provoke us to ask questions and to wonder, to engage with how indeed God is present in these words and in our lives today, reminding us again and again that we are not called to make sense of God or understand the wondrous mysteries of faith, but that we are called to follow and to remember. I share with you the words of a poem from a book entitled Woman on Bent. When he was a child, his mother told him of how she and Joseph had been turned away from their ancestral home, the house of bread, where they were not welcome on the night of his birth. The story taught him that rejection and hunger gnawed with the same teeth. Grown, he walked through towns and countryside, feeding hollow-eyed hundreds who pursued him by day and night. But at a bottomless ocean of hungry mouths flooded his dreams. He learned the memory of yesterday's bread could not relieve today's hunger. And so on the eve of his death, he at last found a way to keep rejection and hunger at bay. He held his life in his hands and he said to his friends, "Take, eat. This is my body broken for you." And when they were filled, he commanded them, "Feed the hungry, and do this to remember me." Generation to generation stands in the awe of your work, and each one tells the stories of God's mighty acts. But too often we want to limit this vision, this wonder of God's gift, of God's vision, to the generations past, to traditions that overwhelm everything else, that have taken hold. And we forget, and we want to live in the present, anxious for change, longing for change, and we cannot participate until that change has happened. We ignore one another. We idolize the words of the past, and it becomes a division. But we cannot divide the past from the present, which this only leads to the shriveling of the mind and the narrowing of vision. The past is part of who we are. It is also our story. And when we act as if the world were created just yesterday and it is ours to define, there is a danger. Because our stories tell us who we are, and we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention of the past that has much to teach us if we will only hold it and integrate it into our future. The past has a great responsibility to stretch in ways that can teach us today, that can stretch beyond the trauma that is caused by theology, that has skewed God's love for centuries. It is called to stretch us, to challenge us, to confess, and to call what needs to be called. The ancient words of the scriptures are filled with images of God's abundant love and care. And too often, the institutional church of which I am a part of, up to my eyeballs, has shut doors, kept people out, and twisted that theology of love and abundance and wondrous diversity that we see around us. But we are heirs to all these stories, to the old poems, the old songs, the old understandings of long ago. And we are required to wrestle with them, to push them, to pull them, to stretch them, to imagine new ways, imagine new interpretations, and to gather these words and these stories into our lives today to make meaning of the stories and make meaning of our lives. Great is the Lord. Sometimes the church, sometimes our neighbors, not so much. But we have a God who has created each one of us gathered here. We have a God who creates and loves diversity. We have a new hymn in one of our hymnals that sings about platypuses and hippopotamus and all kinds of wonderful creation, and we are a part of that. We have a God who desires life for all. And so on this day that we wrestle with some of our stories and wrestle with what it means to be in relationship with someone called Dad, I think again of my grandson, Elliot, who is wrestling with his faith, wondering what it means to be Catholic, to be 14, to have a grandmother who is a bishop, who has an uncle who just married his husband, who wants to play lacrosse and go to college and doesn't know what life is all about. And yet he struggles to make sense of this in light of a community of faith, knowing that the cross of Christ into which he was baptized goes with him and will never let him go, no matter what. And so we have a God today who says yes to life, yes to each one of us, yes, you and you and you are mine, God says. Remember me, I love you.